But before we do that, I think it would be good if I just gave you a very quick glimpse of what our land and water resources look like, both in terms of their productivity as well as the extent to which we brought our resources into use. So let me begin by telling you that Pakistan is basically an arid to semi-arid country. And if you did not have water, all what you would see is what you see on the left. But you can see what water has done to this arid land. So that when you travel from here right up to Karachi, irrigation has brought about a whole new revolution to our countryside. Therefore, where there is water, there is life, and where there is no water, there is no life. And between these two statements lies the whole history of mankind, and particularly more so in our case. Let's look at our land endowment. We have about 17 million hectares of irrigated land and 5 million hectares of rain-fed land, which gives us a total of about 22 million hectares. In terms of our water endowment, the annual replenishable clean water, I would say, renewable resource, is about 144 million acre feet that we get at our rim stations, out of which we divert about 104 million acre feet, and we get about 42 million acre feet of water from groundwater resources, and mostly in the Punjab, where now almost 100 to 1.2 million tube wells are already in operation. I think I'll try and speak in layman's language so we can all understand. But let me tell you one thing. I personally feel, and I think there will be many like me who are aware of our land and water endowment. The challenge for us is that unless we can produce economic surpluses from these two sectors, long-term sustainable development in Pakistan is absolutely impossible, I can tell you. So unless we get this right, it's not going to work. That is why I think the citizenry of Pakistan needs to realize this. And the sooner they realize and take an influence political decision making, the sooner we get on the right track. That's fine. Now this gives you a schematic diagram of the Indus Basin irrigation system. It is the largest contiguous irrigation system in the world. Nowhere in the world do you have such integrated irrigation system from one river, the Indus, and its 5 tributaries. So it's highly integrated, but one river system, one basin. And it has, as you saw, 22 million hectares of land in one piece, both in the north as well as in the south. So don't ever take it lightly. This is a highly complex irrigation system, and we need to respect its complexities if you have to find the right answers. Let me also talk to you about where we are going wrong now. Currently, if you look at these figures, you will see that almost more than 90% of all of our fresh water is being used by agriculture, with very little for municipal, industry, and for environmental purposes. And you know, the fight is already there. The Delta people are saying, look, where is our share of water? Because we want to maintain the Delta. Agriculture says we cannot really spare even a drop of water, because global projections are, at least for Pakistan they say, that by for 2025, if we are to meet our food and fiber requirements, there will be an additional need of 17% more fresh water. And as it is, so it's difficult to transfer water from agriculture to the other sectors when population goes up and your municipal needs increase and your industrial needs increase. So the clash of water allocation then becomes a very important issue. Even though bulk of the average globally is that 70% of fresh water is used for agriculture. In our case, it was 97%.
But is that, I mean, how does our water utilization compare to other countries?
That's what I'm coming to. Water per unit, our productivity per unit of water and our productivity per unit of land is about one of the lowest in the world. And that is a cause of concern. Anyway, this is again a summary of the way we manage water. It's outdated water governance, sectoral approach to water management, weak institutions, fragmented decision making, insufficient awareness, absence of participatory processes, central planning, implementation and operations, unrealistic pricing of water, and inadequate competence in dealing with riparian issues. On this question about unrealistic pricing of water, I was in Egypt once. I had worked with the Minister of Water Resources as a colleague in the International Commission on Irrigation and Drainage. He told me, USAID is funding us, but please advise how we can change the mindset of farmers because they don't want to pay for water. So he said, please go to the field. So I just went to observe what had happened. The argument was that water is a gift of God, and so therefore you can't charge for it. And this debate was going on between USAID officials and the farmers. Until one wise man got up and he said, yes, okay, let's take it. It is a gift of God. But did God ever say that He will deliver water of the quality you want, of the quantity you want, and where you want it and when you want it? If that is the case, then somebody got to pay for that service. So water charges are this is what we are asking for. And if you relent in any of that, then you cannot have a sustainable irrigation system. And you can be proud in one sense that you got the largest, but at the same time it can also become the worst managed system. Well, these are just, I think, follow up on what I've just said. And I think I'll close.
My question to you is there a role for the private sector to play in this? And if so, what that role is? Should we privatize water supplies for individual cities? Should we be looking to the private sector for more funding for projects, etc., rather than just continue with Wapda and with the ministries and with everyone else who've really done very little for it so far?
The point that we have to now look at is that these future challenges that we just mentioned can be addressed satisfactorily for sustainable irrigated agriculture in the basin. And I've told you that the way we are positioned at the moment, we cannot. These are the challenges for the government. Some things government will have to do. For example, I was attending yesterday this conference which the Ministry of Environment had called. I was chairing the session on they wanted to introduce a policy for drinking water supply, safe drinking water supply. Now, this is the only policy where it says that providing water to all the citizens of this country is a basic human right. Similarly, you have a total investment. Replacement cost of water irrigation infrastructure in Pakistan is more than 300 billion US dollars. Where in any country can you allow such large asset base to remain idle? Tell me. So private sector would have known, yes, why not?